Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad you're with us for the Monday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We have a good martini for you and two crazies. So buckle up for those. Your stool is ready for you. Jim, let's talk about our good martini now. All three of these, in some way or another, deal with the COVID debate and freedom versus security and safety and that sort of thing. Let's go down to Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis is our good martini today because he has decided that the decision on whether kids should have to wear masks to school should be made by parents. Imagine such a thing. Here's what he said in signing his executive order.
I'll be signing an executive order which directs the Florida Department of Education and Department of Health to issue emergency rules protecting the rights of parents to make this decision about wearing masks for their children. We think that that's the most fair way to do it. So, Jim, we see an effort underway. Sometimes it feels more aggressive than others where the government is trying to kind of erode parents' role and decisions and power in making decisions for their kids who are not adults yet. And there's a perfect contrast to this going on. There's actually a lawsuit happening right now in Washington, D.C. This is NPR. D.C. parents are suing city officials over a new law that allows children 11 and older to acquire vaccines without permission from parents. It essentially allows these medical records to go to the school instead of the parents. So, in other words, the parents are never actually told if their students are getting this vaccine apart from their parents' blessing on this. So, Jim, regardless of what one thinks about these particular issues, although we can talk about those as well, certainly, the idea of empowering parents is a great martini, and the idea of allowing kids to make decisions like this where the parents never even find out, definitely not good. So good for Ron DeSantis.
Well, on the D.C. schools, Greg, let's observe that in a whole lot of schools, including, I believe, Authenticity Woods, that if your child has prescription medication that you have not sent a note to the school saying they have permission to take it, I think they have to take, in some schools, they have to take it with the school nurse observing them or something. Or even, non-prescription painkiller, aspirin, Tylenol, something like that. Well, they get caught with that. Wait a second, you've got drugs in school, kiddo. And they will throw, all kinds of consequences to a child. So if you have a parent's permission to take a medication, but you don't send in a note, then we can have done. But if you want to take a vaccine against the parent's wishes, that's okay too. Okay, I just want to clarify. None of this makes any sense whatsoever. Kudos to Ron DeSantis for this decision. I think it's the right one. There are some parents out there who are really, really concerned about their kids catching COVID. They're very nervous about what they're seeing with the Delta variant. Right now, there's really very little evidence that either, COVID classic, if you want to call it, or the Delta variant are particularly dangerous to kids. I know a friend of mine who, kids tested positive. You never knew the kid. Kids were asymptomatic. Kids have pretty darn good immune systems. Most of the time, kids can fight it off just fine, no problem. Maybe once in a while they'll have sniffles. And yes, once in a great while, a child will indeed have a serious reaction to the COVID-19 virus. If you feel more comfortable with your kid wearing a mask, go ahead and do it. And nobody should give you any grief for it. None of the other kids should give your kids any grief for it. This is entirely a personal. But if you look at it, you say, no, actually, I feel pretty good about my kids. I feel I've looked at the rates in my area, and they're fine. What we're really reaching at in this pandemic is you can't make someone do something. You can explain it to them. You can lay out the reasons why they should do it. You can make it free. We're giving away iPads. We're giving away scholarships. We're giving away lottery. They can do all kind of stuff. But if somebody doesn't want to take it, you can't make them take it. And I think we really get into a very dangerous area here whenever anybody starts entertaining the notion of, well, even if somebody really doesn't want to take it, we should have the government make them take that vaccine. I think they're going to recognize that's a road we do not want to go down. So regarding the schools, first of all, it is good to see generally everybody saying schools should be open. There was that odd comment from Fed Chair Powell and Randy Weingarten, surprise, surprise, saying maybe we won't be able to open up schools on time. Almost everybody seems to think kids should be in school. Everybody seems to think that there should be fully everybody's coming back, so it's going to be full capacity, so we're not going to be able to do 6 feet apart, but we don't really need to do 6 feet apart now that we have large chunks of our communities vaccinated. Teachers should all be vaccinated. In fact, the only reason that this, over at Hot Air, Allah Pundit lays out the argument, DeSantis should require all teachers to be vaccinated. And one of the reasons for this is that the teachers unions do not want all of their members to have to be vaccinated. They basically believe that, while large numbers of them are, those who are holdouts, they don't want to do it. Well, you know what? Teachers unions have, are at the lowest point of public opinion in recent memory. This is a time to push it even further. You want to have a safer school? Make the teachers get vaccinated, and then make the teachers basically put them into the anti-vaxxer position there. But that having been said, Florida's right now got a lot of cases. The good news is that a lot of cases don't automatically translate to hospitalizations and deaths. The death rates are still pretty bad, but the hospitalizations are really starting to creep up in this state. And it is not the elderly. They did do a pretty good job of getting the seniors and the most immunocompromised pretty early on. But this is, it's enough to be concerned in the Sunshine State, and probably be good for people to do that. And if you look at your local community down there in Florida and you're uncomfortable with how much the virus is floating around in your community, if you want to have your kids wear masks, go ahead and have your kids wear masks. It should make you feel safer. Everybody who goes to school should feel like their kid is in a safe environment. The thing is, you can't make other parents do things to make you feel safe, because your mask protects your kid and your vaccination protects you. If other people want to make different decisions, the risk is on them. And that's a concept a lot of people are having a hard time getting their heads around these days.
Well, that's certainly true. And we'll probably be talking about that a little bit in the next couple of martinis as well. But in terms of giving parents the power to make these decisions for their kids, we joked years ago about the MSNBC ad from Melissa Harris Perry, where she talked about kids belonging to the collective and stuff. They're our children. They're not your children, parents. They're our children. And, and you see, I think, on the left, I'm not saying this is true of everyone on the left, but it is true of some. One of the reasons we're seeing the big push for universal pre-K is because they think the government can do a better job, essentially, of raising and educating your kid from the time they're 3 years old all the way up to 2 years of community college past the time they graduate from high school. There are people, particularly on the left, who believe that the government is far better at that than parents, and they're dead wrong.
Yeah, in the end, there are certain people who just aren't really comfortable with freedom. People making different decisions from that. Like, in the end, they had this notion of, we'll all be free, but everyone will make the right decisions, or the decisions that I like, and everything will work out okay. That's not really how freedom works. Freedom is going to have a whole bunch of people making it, what the heck are you thinking? But that's part of what freedom is. And if you're not comfortable with it, at that point, you end up climbing down the path to authoritarianism. Oh,
man. You know what you should be comfortable with, though? Internet service that protects your privacy. Look, everything you surf, where you go to, it turns up in ads, it turns into promos. Sponsors and companies get your data and where you've gone, and so your internet provider is basically watching everything you're doing and passing it along to people who are trying to make a buck off of it. But there is a way to protect yourself, and it's called ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is the best VPN on the market.
ExpressVPN does not log your activity online. Now, a lot of cheap or free VPNs will make money by selling your data to advertisers. But ExpressVPN doesn't do this. They even developed a technology called Trusted Server that makes their servers incapable of storing any data at all. ExpressVPN now uses Lightway, a new VPN protocol they engineered to make user speeds faster than ever. Now, you may have tried other VPNs in the past, and you can probably notice they sometimes can slow your connection. But ExpressVPN is always blazing fast and lets you stream videos in HD quality with zero buffering. It's easy to use, no technical skills needed. You just fire up the app and tap one button to connect. And it's not just me saying this. CNET, The Verge, and many other tech journals rate ExpressVPN the #1 VPN in the world.
What we're telling you is true, but if you want to do some more research, it's right out there. Just look for ratings of ExpressVPN. PC Mag, for example, calls it an excellent VPN, boasting a massive global footprint and excellent privacy practices to protect your information. And CNET is raving about ExpressVPN speed, as Jim just mentioned. So it absolutely is true. It's an absolutely fantastic service. Everybody can use it. It literally only takes one button to enact. So grandparents, kids, not tech savvy, everybody can do it. So protect yourself with the VPN that you can trust. Use our link, expressvpn.com/martini today, and get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/martini. expressvpn.com/martini to learn more. All right, Jim, let's move on to crazy martini number 1. And we have talked a number of times here about, if the CDC was trying to get people not to get vaccinated, what would they be doing differently exactly? And that was certainly true last week with, hey, you people who did everything we told you to do, now you have to act exactly like everyone else has done. But now they might not even be done yet. And this is a maybe. But Dr. Rochelle Walensky, head of the CDC, was on with Bret Baier on Friday on Special Report, long-ranging interview, about 20 minutes in 2 different segments. And the issue of vaccine mandates came up, and it wasn't just in government and in business. Bret Baier asking, should there be a federal vaccine mandate across the board, meaning Americans have to get vaccinated? And here's how that conversation went.
Are you for mandating a vaccine on a federal level?
That's something that I think the administration is looking into. It's something that I think we're looking to see approval of from the vaccine. Overall, I think in general, I am all for more vaccination. But I have nothing further to say on that except that we're looking into those policies. And quite honestly, as people are doing that locally, those are individual local decisions as well.
Right. But you're in the medical field, and you can hear the pushback from people who say, I need to determine what is put inside my body with my doctor. So you get that pushback.
I completely understand the pushback, and I also understand that this is not unlike other things that are mandated, other vaccines that are mandated for school-going children, for healthcare personnel. I'm mandated every year as I work in the hospital to get a flu vaccine. So I understand both perspectives in that story. I understand.
The correct answer to that is no. We're not going to force you to put that into your body. And Jim, I think her argument about, we force school kids to get vaccinated for other stuff, so what would one more thing be? So the fact that they're actually considering this is troubling, certainly. And of course, the counterpunch on that is, the polio vaccine, the MMR, whatever else you give to school kids, those have been tested over a long term and, have been formally approved, which you talked about last week. We still haven't gotten that from the FDA.
Yeah, and I elaborate on that in the Morning Jolt today that, look, if you really think that, the biggest problem right now is we have too many unvaccinated people who need to get vaccinated, well, for what it's worth, there's a group of people that, polling and demographic study have characterized as the, on the fence folks who are reluctant but could be convinced. And there are probably about 20 million Americans in this particular group, probably about, 9-10% of the total U.S. adult population. Well, they've done surveys of this group, and probably about 44-45% of them say that if the FDA gave full approval to the vaccine, they would go out and get vaccinated. Now, maybe they're not telling the truth. Maybe they're exaggerating how much of a factor this is in there. But I think, particularly if you're going to reach the point where you say to people, if you don't get this vaccine, you're fired. Or if you don't get this vaccine, it seems reasonable to say, okay, so this vaccine is fully approved by the FDA, right? Because it's not. It's an emergency use authorization. Now, look, I got vaccinated. I think it's perfectly safe. I don't think there's all the side effects are well within normal parameters. If you have questions, talk to your doctor. I do think there's something, as I mentioned, it's really absurd about the FDA saying, well, look, we can't give it final approval yet. We can't look at this, this BLA, which is our last step. We're still reviewing the data when 190 million Americans have a shot in them. What else are you looking for, guys? In light of this, but kind of turning towards Walensky and her comments, there is an article in Politico today that says inside the administration, the emergence of the Delta variant has caused friction, leading to behind-the-scenes finger-pointing and weeks-long tensions between the CDC and the White House. 2 senior Biden officials familiar with the matter said the administration is still trying to balance messaging in a way that underscores the severity of the Delta variant while simultaneously reiterating that vaccinated individuals are overwhelmingly not at risk. Greg, wasn't it a year ago that if anybody in the White House was disagreeing with the CDC, they were anti-science, reckless, crazy, it's okay now. All right, yeah. By the way, you look at the comments from Walensky, you look at the comments from other administration officials, it's not all that surprising. And in fact, what the Biden administration is confronting is a very similar phenomenon that we saw during the Trump administration during the first 8, 9, 10 months of this pandemic, which is that, look, health officials look at everything through a health lens, right? Their sole concern is, how do we stop the virus? How do we mitigate the virus? How do we, and they tend to recommend things without looking at, okay, first of all, will people follow this? How reasonable, how much time can we expect Americans to stay home and not go out and interact with anybody? They don't really think much about the economic consequences. They don't really think much about, say, the education consequences, social consequences, right? Over the last year and a half, we have really seen doing the very best thing to stop the spread of the virus can have all kinds of unexpected, or maybe in some cases even expected, bad consequences for people, even if they're not catching COVID-19. And generally, the person who's really in charge, the lawmakers, presidents, governors, mayors, people who have that executive authority over what government can and can't do, they have to reach that balance, right? The traditional example is, if you really wanted to stop car accidents, you would reduce the speed limit to 25 miles an hour and everything would be fine. So of course, it would take everybody forever to get any place, right? So you have to say, all right, these are the best measures to protect people. We're willing to tolerate this much risk because eliminating that much risk would create too many other problems in the rest of society. That's what they have to do. What we're seeing between Walensky and the Biden White House is not all that different from what we saw between Fauci and the Trump White House, except, nothing's happening that makes Fauci reach for, touch his face in the background of a White House press conference or something like that. Walensky, all of this, by the way, would have been better if Walensky had not gone out and said, America, I'm having this vision of doom and plague, right before things got really, really good, right before the numbers plummeted like a stone in the, late spring, early summer. The problem is, even when she's right, we've been conditioned to see her skeptically because she's gotten some stuff wrong and then had to go back and then had to backtrack. She's really not a very good communicator, and it's kind of hard to see. Like, she may be a phenomenal doctor, but if you can't nail down the public communications part of this job, you probably should not be in it.
Well, we saw Biden last week essentially urging private companies and other folks to institute vaccine mandates, which I don't believe is his position to do. But now the question is, should there be a federally mandated vaccine? And so, I don't understand how this is supposed to work. For example, okay, here's all the reasons we think you should get it. No. All right, get over here and we're going to jab you anyway. Or if you still don't get it, then what? What's the or what if you don't get this and the government's really getting into your private business here?
I was going to say, how do you think people are going to greet that?
Right.
You think they say, oh, okay. Look, I've been really opposed to this, but now that you're making me, sure thing, I'll line up. Or do you think people start grabbing their gun? Like, I'm trio next to like the, Beto, hell yeah, we're going to take your AR-15, type mentality. It's really hard to see a scenario that would more quickly speed up, arguably even violent resistance to what people see as an illegitimate government overreach.
Absolutely absurd. Freedom has not been destroyed in this pandemic. In some ways, it's certainly been damaged. But,
well, they tried.
Yes, they've certainly tried. But let's fight for that too, because once you get to that point, it gets far, far, far uglier. And still, the question is, what are you going to do if they still say no? You're going to put people in jail? You're going to, label them in a certain way that they can't be employed or something? How much government intrusion are we talking about here? All right, let's talk about something far less stressful than that. And that's a luxurious towel for when you step out of the shower, and that's where MyPillow comes in with fantastic products. We know about the pillows, we know about the sheets, but the towels are fantastic as well. They dry you off so quickly. They're big and they're fluffy and they're just a pleasure to use. And right now, you're still getting a fantastic deal.
You can get the 6-piece towel set, which usually goes for $109.99 for only $39.99. Now, in the 6-piece towel set, each set is 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and a washcloth 2-pack. They're made from proprietary technology that makes them highly absorbent, soft to the touch, and none of that lotiony feel. They're made with cotton grown right here in the United States. They're available in a variety of colors and sizes, machine washable, And they have a 60-day money-back guarantee as well as a 1-year limited warranty.
So visit mypillow.com and use the promo code Martini at checkout or call 800-874-0104. It's the MyPillow 6-piece towel set for only $39.99. Now, while you're there, take advantage of the deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets and the MyPillow premium pillows. It's at mypillow.com, code word Martini, or use the code when you call 800-874-0104. All right, Jim. In addition to making people get something they don't already want, that would be a bad way to encourage people to get vaccinated. Making vaccinated people do stuff that they were told they wouldn't have to do if they actually got the vaccine. That's another way to make people not want to do stuff. Another is telling people things they have to do and then not doing it yourself. And that's where Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser comes in. She announced that, I believe, effective Saturday, the mask mandates were coming back to Washington, D.C. In the meantime, Friday night, which wasn't technically a violation, but it certainly wasn't setting a very good example of this perceived crisis, she was holding a maskless birthday party with quite a few attendees. And then, less than a day into the mask mandate, she was officiating an indoor wedding, maskless, in the Adams Morgan neighborhood. And so, of course, the liberal media outlets are pretending it didn't happen for the most part, and the conservative media outlets are howling hypocrisy here, Jim. But what do you make of Mayor Bowser?
Well, I believe it was later in the day, Bowser issued a statement saying, well, look, the ceremony was outdoors, and then I wore a mask indoors, which doesn't quite line up with some of the pictures taking. At minimum, there was a small stretch in there where Bowser was inside and did not wear a mask. Look, this is so frustrating. We are right back to where we started, and it's Newsom with the French Laundry. It's all the other examples, and I think Bowser had said all non-essential travel should stop, and then, of course, she went to the Biden victory party back last November. Nothing new here. It is really frustrating. It is really galling, and I think it's kind of indicating, like, clearly Muriel Bowser doesn't really think a mask mandate does any good. Clearly, she's not afraid of getting infected. Clearly, she's not afraid of getting infected and giving it to somebody else because she's vaccinated, and she doesn't feel the need to wear a mask. So deep down, she kind of knows. She thinks this rule is nonsense. But no one was making her. There certainly were not people on the streets clamoring, reimpose a mask mandate, reimpose. She just chose to do it, knowing that she herself would not have to live with it. And she kind of knew that even if she was caught, as I believe it was Tiana Lowe of Washington Examiner who had this story, she knew that deep down she'd be able to survive the fallout from this. Nobody's going to give her too much grief because she's a Democrat, and Democrats in Washington, D.C. can pretty much do whatever they want. Deeply frustrating. We are right back to where we started from. It's as if the mass vaccination effort never happened, and we're right back where we started, Greg.
Well, Democrats in D.C. can do whatever they want to a point. If you get caught smoking crack on camera, you'll go to prison. Then you'll get your job as mayor back. But there can be a slight interruption in your time in power as a Democrat in D.C.
I was going to say, yeah. First of all, that was a long time ago. I think if somebody got caught smoking crack now, I think everybody would be okay with it.
Oh, man. Hold my tongue. There's a presidential offspring joke in there somewhere. Jim, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch if you don't already. Also, tell your friends about us. We are very grateful for your kind reviews and your 5-star ratings. Get us on those home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Monday, and please join us Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
We are living in difficult times where people fear having thought-provoking conversations about pressing issues. And although we're in the midst of an information explosion, there are a lot of forces aiming to distort what's true. I created The Bill Walton Show to provide a forum for in-depth, thought-provoking conversations with leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and thinkers. Please join me at thebillwaltonshow.com to explore what's true, what's right, and what's next.